Um, Tell me now, what is there of the, politically and geographically, what is there of the Armenian Republic?
Well, the Armenian Republic that exists today is really the old Soviet Republic of Armenia. It was a political state that the Soviets formed after some back and forth in the Caucasus region, that it formed then in the early 1920s. And it is landlocked. It is in a difficult position economically. It's also more or less blockaded by its frontier with Turkey. It is, in some senses, a kind of remnant state of what had once been, in the medieval period, a great empire, and also even, smaller than the eastern provinces of Anatolia in the Ottoman Empire that had been heavily populated by Armenians until the genocide. So it's a small state in the Caucasus, which faces really immense economic and social difficulties.
Anything you want to say about the efforts by Armenians to have this story emerge? Not everyone's been quiet about it over the last decades. What efforts have there been by some to bring this out into the public consciousness?
Well, over the last, I would say, 25 to 30 years, but not much beyond that, Armenians have made many efforts to bring this story into the public realm. Some of it has gone on locally here in Minnesota through the efforts of Luann Matosian and other people to look in the archives of what we have here in Minnesota, at the Immigration and History Research Center at the U, and other places where we have newspapers and documentary records concerning how aware Minnesotans were at the time in 1915-16 of the genocide, and also the efforts to aid the Armenian population that came from people in Minnesota and other places. So there's been community work, there's been historical work here in Minnesota, in many places around the country and in Europe as well. There have been political efforts designed to get Congress, designed to get the EU Parliament, the French Parliament, various political bodies to recognize the reality of the genocide. And there have been academic efforts. I think there were very, very few academics who really studied the Armenian genocide until 20 years ago at best. Richard Hovhannissian and Vahak Dadrian, probably foremost among the scholars who have done so much to uncover the story of the genocide. And now there are really quite a number of people, both in Germany and the rest of Europe and in North America and other parts of the world, in Armenia itself, who are engaged in scholarly research on the Armenian genocide, on the late history of the Ottoman Empire, the larger context in which the Armenian genocide unfolded. So I think we really are in a fairly good position now, far better than 25 years ago. There are also Armenians and Armenian scholars who are collecting testimonies from, it's really the children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren of survivors now. It's late. It's late to be collecting those testimonies, but at least it is finally happening. And I actually think that now we know a great deal. We know a lot more than we knew 25 years ago. The Ottoman archives are still not completely open to scholars, so there are problems there, but we know the history. There are details that need to be filled in, there are questions that need to be debated about it, but we know the story in its thick, in a thick kind of way. We have a lot of knowledge now, really, and it's important to convey that knowledge to the broader public.
And as a scholar, I can ask you to say for us something that would lead a viewer to the website for the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at the University of Minnesota, about what a rich resource that is for people wanting to hear more and know more.
Okay. And we have a lot of work that bridges the public and scholarly communities. And for example, the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies at the University of Minnesota has played a very, very important role in developing and conveying knowledge about the genocide, bringing scholars who work on the topic to Minnesota to give talks, presenting public forums on the Armenian genocide. It plays a very, very important role and will continue to do so. The Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies also has this phenomenal website that gets a phenomenal number of hits every week, every month, and there are very good resources on that website for people who want to know more about the genocide, for educators who might want to incorporate some material about the genocide into their teaching, whether it's at the high school level or at the college and university level.